There was a project that started in East London where they report these kind of crimes at the mosque, and they want to spread it around. Should you use more of these religious places for all these communities to report these kind of crimes?
You absolutely can. I mean, I had a lovely meeting with the ladies in the mosque, and they suggested, in the end, they said, "Oh, can we work?" Or I said, "Then can we work? We talked about working on a project together." And they said, "Yeah, well, how about?" And they suggested, "How about we create a sort of a centre where people can come and talk about domestic abuse?" And we haven't started yet. That was quite a recent recommendation, but we could easily do the same in the Gurwara and elsewhere. You know, it's those things. I think you want to make it feel as easy,
a safe environment.
And that's why I do a monthly surgery in my mosque in my Gurwara, because my Hindu temple is slightly outside my constituency.
Okay.
But I do a monthly surgery there because I feel I want people to know that their Member of Parliament is responsive, is accessible, is visible, is someone that they can come and talk to in a safe environment, or an environment that they feel comfortable in. And then hopefully they can work with me on some of the initiatives that I'm trying to do across the community.
So what sort of problems do your Asian constituents bring to you, to your surgeries? What are the issues that are affecting them?
A lot of the time, they're, to some extent, they're no different to issues elsewhere. I mean, sometimes there are very specific things, like in my Sikh community wanted to talk to me about setting up a new school. They were talking to me about how they are searched at airports. And so there are some very specific things, but on the whole, a lot of the issues are day-to-day issues that they're facing about getting, whether it's their child into the local school, whether it's about access to healthcare, a whole range of different issues that they come to me with, and so all of these things are things that we. And
they have language barriers, or they get by?
To be honest, not much. I mean, in London now, the majority of my Asian communities speak English. I'm always I'm very happy if they don't, that they take an interpreter with them. But on the whole, a lot of that language barrier is sometimes just confidence, because lots of them come in and they'll say, "Oh, my English isn't very good." And I go, "Well, give it a try." And actually,
they do get by.
It's not bad at all. And sometimes it's just that confidence of practicing as much as possible. But on the whole, there's no issues on language.
So what about issues concerning the elderly in your boroughs? Their homes, day centres, assistance for them. Have you assisted them since you got elected?
Yeah, and this bit in this whole area, it has changed quite a bit, because when I started first, there was lots of day centres so whether it was elderly or whether it was learning disabilities, or there was a whole range of day centres available. My local council have changed it to be sort of personal budgets, so they've closed down quite a lot of the day centres, and I've fought for some of the day centres to be kept open, because I sort of feel we're an ageing population, and there's many people who've got dementia or Alzheimer's, and they don't like change, they like structure to their lives, but it's good for them to get out the house, and or people with mental health issues. It's good for them to be able to get out and speak to people and engage with the community, and therefore we've really tried to fight to keep some of those. We haven't been able to do all of them, but I'm keeping a close eye on it, because what we want to do is keep that community, as well as, yes, some people have very personal requirements. You still want people as a community, especially when you get elderly, because there's often people are if their other half has passed away, or you want them still to be engaging with people of a range of different ages. If they've got family around, that's brilliant, but not all do. So it's you want to make sure that community is strong and supporting one another.
What about food banks that have grown up all over the country because of unemployment? I believe there were issues concerning the Brentford food bank recently.
Yeah, we've got several food banks, and there has been an increase in food banks. But I've been to see, I think, almost all of my food banks, and one of the ones just very near here does a really good service, because what they do is, yes, if you need food, they will give you food. But what they also do is they sit with you and try and talk about what is the problem and the issue of why you're in the situation, and can they help you through it. And when I was speaking to them, every individual case is different. Everyone's got their own unique story about why that they are going to the food bank. And often it's because they have perhaps been made redundant, they're out of work, they're waiting for their benefits to come through, there's been a time delay. And so what I've said to the food bank is that, you know, I will work with them so that we can try and speed those things up so that it reduces their need to go to a food bank. And where there are any other issues, then we can absolutely address them. But this is the local food box, it says to me that actually the people who come do not come long term. It's for a short amount of time whilst they're in sort of crisis mode and crisis in need, and therefore they help them over that short-term crisis. But a lot of the time it's saying, let's find a solution to what the real problem is, rather than it's just purely about getting food for that day.
The Prime Minister David Cameron has said that he wants to see a 7 days a week NHS by 2020. And yet there have been lots of cutbacks in the funding for the NHS. So how is this feasible?
Well, this is an important one because health is something that we all want to, if we are ill or one of our loved ones is ill, we want to make sure they get seen to and get the care they need at the point of need. And but what I feel really strongly about is that our NHS in the UK is renowned across the world. We have a great national health service. It's
attracting.
It's not perfect, but it's a great national health service. So I do want to see it go to 7 days. I think that is good. They've been restructuring sort of London, NHS.
West London.
Because what they want to do is they see, and it's the clinicians themselves who've come up with it, they see that if they structure it so that we have more specialist hospitals with specialist consultants, then if you have, say, a heart disease or a stroke and you go to that specialist hospital, you will see the specialist you need, and therefore you will get better quality of care, and your outcomes will therefore be better. And they think they can save over 100 lives in London a year by doing that. So I think that is that's a good thing if they can do it. In terms of funding, you asked about funding. Overall, across the NHS, we've increased the funding by 12.7 billion in the 5 years. What we did was we said we'd ring fence the NHS. The only two budgets we ring fenced in 2010 was the National Health Service and International Development. And the NHS was the right thing to do because as we're living longer, as more medical science and advancement is happening, there's more cures and help for people. So we do need to put that investment in. So we created also the Cancer Drugs Fund to help with cancer. And we're really pushing to make sure that we're reducing the numbers of managers, increasing the numbers of doctors and nurses, because those are the people that can actually make the difference.
But the medical staff are already overworked. The GPs are working flat out. The doctors are also working all the time. So how are you going to manage this?
Well, part of it will be that we will put more funding into the NHS, and that has been said by the Prime Minister already. So we will continue to increase that funding for the National Health Service. And then I think there's also, there's always ways where you can improve just being more efficient and effective in what you do. And my local hospital there's two that my constituents use, the West Middlesex in Isleworth and also Charing Cross. Those hospitals are constantly looking for ways where they can just improve the care to patients and give patients what they need. And it is changing because, nowadays we don't spend such a long time in hospital with keyhole surgery and other things. We'd rather be at home recovering, frankly, than staying for weeks in a hospital. And so the whole sort of healthcare and patient support and care has been changing, but we need to make sure that the patient is at the centre of it, and as the care for them is the paramount.
So all the money is used economically.
Used in the right way.
Right way.
And that's where if hospitals can share that resource, can work together, create better outcomes, then that'll be better for the patient.
Now in your constituency, over a quarter of the population is Asian British descent, with a high proportion of Muslims and Sikhs. So with regards to the radicalisation of the younger generation recently fleeing to Syria, how worrying is this how do you see this? And how have the Muslim community responded to this?
it is a real worry because, you know, if it can happen with young people in one school or in one area of the UK, it can happen in another. So we have to take it really seriously. And you know, part of me thinks that, you know, at that age, those young girls, did they really understand what they were going to and getting involved in? And you know, so it's, you know, we have to make sure that our young people understand some of those issues in a really clear way. And it is difficult because, you know, with the internet now, they can access so much
social media
and social media that, you know, even parents don't always necessarily
No.
understand what, you know, young people are reading or listening to or getting involved in. So, you know, I think what there has to be within schools is a real programme of helping young people understand what some of these, you know, key problems are, and as well, you know, whether it's the mosque, the Gurdwara, the temples, they can help in communicating all of that too.
What has been the reaction from the Muslim population in your constituency with regards to, even yesterday, 10 were caught, British people were caught in Turkey, and they're setting them back?
I mean, I think there's I think they're frustrated to some extent that they worry that people will think that is
a negative image.
A negative image of the Muslim population, which is not whether, and we all know that actually these are a few people who are radicalised, and that's very, very different to the majority. Of our Islamic community who absolutely believe, and Islam is a peaceful faith. So this is just a few extremists who, you know, to some extent are pulling the religion to disrepute, because actually the you know, the whole majority of in my Muslim community are absolutely, you know, will talk absolutely against those extremists and what they are doing. So I think we need to be more open about talking about this. And
should the police be more reactive in such issues? I mean, they're saying that the parents are responsible, the police are responsible, you know, the government should be responsible. You know, what?
I mean, I think it's everyone. You know, I think we all have to take our part and share in trying to prevent this. You know, one of the things I pushed for when I became the MP was for this borough to get money on the Prevent, the programme that is out there trying to help young people and prevent those sort of terrorist activities and radicalisation. So, you know, when we've been working on that, you know, I do think we could look at that a bit further and say, are we doing the right things? Is there more that can be done? How are we engaging?
Stop them initially getting out. But Boris Johnson has now said that any young person heading to Syria risks being charged with terrorist offences. And even the Prime Minister said if those 3 girls do come back to UK, they will be seen as you know, arrested.
I mean, what I think is, you know, to a large extent, I mean, I think that message is something which is a harsh
it's a good
message,
deterrent.
But it's a good deterrent, because I think if young people hear that, they'll realise how important this is. This is not like going to have a holiday in Syria.
Oh, absolutely
this is
not.
not just like an adventure. This is their lives at stake, and it's their lives at stake not only when they're there in Syria, and you know, let's hope they come back, you know, alive and well. But you know, this is a really serious issue, and I think that shows the seriousness of it. I mean, what the Prime Minister was saying is, you know, the law will have to take its course when they come back.
Sure.
And yes, the fact their age, of course, will be taken into account as part of that.
Yeah, they're very young.
But they're very young. But I think for young people, it just shows how serious this is, and these things shouldn't be taken lightly. And it's something that, you know, I feel very sad for the girls, for their families, because you know, this is something that, you know, the families would not, the parents would not have wanted for their children, and I just fear the children didn't necessarily know exactly what they were getting into. But we have to get a really strong message out to our young people that this is, you know, incredibly serious, and this is the rest of their lives we're talking about, and it's a serious crime.
With regards to relations with India, how do you see the historical link with the new Modi government?
Well, I think it's we've always had a really strong link with India. And so I went over recently. I've been over in Delhi, and I used to work in Mumbai and Chennai and Bangalore, but I went over recently to Delhi, and then my Gurdwara took me to the rural Punjab, and we went to Amritsar and the Golden Temple. And,
oh my God.
And it was brilliant, because I saw some of the work that my Gurdwara here, my Sikh community here, are doing in the rural Punjab. So they have an eye clinic for in the rural area. And we went to the Guru Nanak Mission Hospital, saw how they were doing all the operations, went round some schools, both sort of good, sort of well-established schools, and also sort of very basic rural schools. But it gave me a real insight into just, where a lot of my community come from, some of the challenges that are faced in India, where there's a real discrepancy, a real difference between those rural areas where there's real poverty and some of the the businesses that I was involved in when I worked in business, where there's more wealth. So it was fascinating just to get a glimpse of that and visit.
But what are you doing in terms of creating more jobs with regards to your constituency here and helping with the trade links or with Indian investment?
As a country, we've taken this really, really seriously, because if you look at the size and scale of India, it's a real opportunity for Britain as well.
The finance minister was here, Arun Jaitley, recently.
Yeah, and the Prime Minister has done several trade missions to India, which shows how important it is. We will absolutely use, and we've been using the diaspora here to build those links with India. So I think we put sort of that trade with India, right at the top of the agenda as far as business is concerned and industry. And what we're trying to do is encourage businesses here to export and do business with India, and as well as sort of Indian businesses coming here. So I think at the moment we've had a really good track record, and that we want to build on that, as the Prime Minister here said. We want it to be stronger, better, deeper, that relationship with India and Britain, to just keep on building on what we've got, to make it even better. And I think it's also hopefully a brilliant opportunity for my British Indians in this country to do that.
What about the unveiling of the statue of the Mahatma Gandhi? How significant is that in Parliament Square?
Well, I think it is significant. It's I think even for non-Indian backgrounds, I think we all he was someone that we've admired. And it's nice, and I think it's great that he's been recognised in this way. And what I always think with someone like him is that he gives that, I think, that impression that anyone, no matter who they are, what their background is, how much money they have, they can go and change the world. And it isn't a really important message to give to everyone in society.
Inspiring.
It is inspiring. Whether it's like be the change you want to be in the world, and so we can all affect change in our lives, in our neighbours' lives, in our communities' lives.
Very positive.
Every little bit that we do to help improve things, make things better, help someone achieve something, help with someone else's life, that makes a difference to them, and they will help others, and that's where we make a really strong society, when we're working together, shaping our futures together, and just building on the great strengths we have in this country and the brilliant people that shape it.
And one of the issues is one of the debates in your constituency seems to be complicated by the fact that both Conservative and Labour parties support Heathrow expansion, but both local candidates oppose such a move. So what are your views on the expansion of Heathrow?
Yeah, it is quite a complex one, because Heathrow is good for the local economy. So I've always said I want Heathrow to stay there, because it is
jobs.
Good for us, and it is
prime industry.
It's jobs. But what I'm also very clear about is that it's really important for me to listen to what my local constituents say in it. And I survey them.
And what do they want?
And they want to keep Heathrow as it is, but not expand any further. So they want a better, not bigger Heathrow.
Better Heathrow.
And the thing is, there are other opportunities and ways where we can have increased aviation capacity. So there's Gatwick Airport, where we can expand. It's got one runway, so if we give 2 runways to Gatwick and 2 runways to Heathrow, then that creates competition. Both airports can get even better and improve.
Now, Brentford and Isleworth is seen as a key Conservative Labour marginal. How hopeful are you to win this seat again?
It is a really tough fight. The local polls do fluctuate in terms of who's going to win. So it sort of reflects the national polls. And I sort of say, this is a seat where if, we want David Cameron as Prime Minister, then we need to win this seat.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why on the doorstep I will sometimes say to people, well, it's a choice between David Cameron and Ed Miliband. And who do you want as Prime Minister? Because this seat will help determine that outcome. Because this is an important seat. So I think it's doable. God willing, I really do think that it's something that if we work hard for the next 37 days, an hour or so,
but you are.
Then, or however long it is.
Are you having sleepless nights?
Well, you literally work night and day, and because what you want to do is get across your message of what you've done for the local constituency, so that people understand what you've been busy doing in their behalf. But you also then want to say what you will or not be able to do for them, because then
people say all these politicians, they just make promises because they want our vote, but in reality they don't want to do anything later on.
And there may be a few odd politicians who do that, and I think that was the old image of politics. I think politics has changed. So nowadays the public are much more aware of what's going on. They have got social media, they've got internet, they've got their email. So if my residents email me, they want a response very quickly and understandably. So I've responded now to, we've had 21,000 cases in my constituency that I've responded to. I do weekly surgeries across my constituency. I do the additional ones monthly in the mosque and the Gwar. It's just there's a lot of engagement now with your politicians. So if I was an MP who wasn't working hard, wasn't focusing on local issues, wasn't trying to make things better for the local community, then people would soon know about it, and rightly they would be angry and they would vote me out if that was the case. So what I just need to do in the next few weeks up until the election is remind people of the things that I've tried to do, tell them what I will do, and even in the things that I've tried to do, what I often do is I relate it back to what I promised back in 2010. So I say, this is what I promised you in 2010, right. This is what I have delivered, and then this is what in the next 5 years I'd like to build on. And that to me, we have to try and rebuild and regain that trust with the electorate and politicians, because we should be proud of our democracy. Absolutely. And we do want people to vote. Sure. The last election we just had 65% of people voting, and they say women millions. Women voted. So that's where we've got to say, what are we as politicians doing wrong that people aren't voting? How can we engage with women and encourage them to go out there and vote? And I always say women only got the vote in this country in 1920s,
early 20s,
and then it was
1919.
It was only if you had property then, and then eventually,
absolutely.
In 1928. And so we really, people fought for that, for us to have the vote, and it's a really important part of us having a voice, and being able to say what we think, and especially in this seat and in this election. Given that every single vote will count, this shows how important democracy is here, and how strong it is, in that those things will have a real impact on which MP you get and which Prime Minister.
But Labour's gains in the recent European elections in London will make the party keen to get back this West London constituency. So this is another reason for a tough fight for you.
Labour absolutely have me as one of their top targets, but that helps motivate my team to work even harder. It's the way I look at it. And anything in life that's worth getting, it can be a tough fight, but then you just work all the more harder to achieve it. And at the end of the day, it will be up to the electorate on the 7th of May to decide on who they want, and whatever they decide, I will have to stand by it. But up until then, I will absolutely fight for that, because it's not just for me as a Member of Parliament, but I absolutely believe that the right people the right government to run this country is a Conservative government who can build on that work they've done in creating that economic stability, help hard-working people, secure that foundation and that strength that we've had in Britain, and create that future for Britain that is right to make us even greater, but give people and hard-working families the support they need to fulfil the lives that they want for them, themselves and their family.
But the public seem to be saying it's not just Labour and Conservative Party election now. There are other parties involved: Lib Dems, SNP, Green Party, rise of UKIP, and we're possibly heading for another coalition government this time. So it's important to make pacts with these smaller parties.
Well, the way I always look at it is, and this is why we have sort of this first past the post system in our general election, is that at the moment, as a local MP, I'm absolutely accountable for everything that I've done, and people know that I am that accountable person. If you ask people here who is their member of the European Parliament, they'd really struggle to tell you. And it's because they vote for a party and they don't vote for a person. In a general election, you vote for a person, so you know exactly who you're voting for, and that's an important part of it. So in this election, we do have a range of parties, but that also isn't a bad thing, in that people have a choice.
Yes.
It perhaps makes all the parties work that bit harder in trying to say what they can deliver. I still, fundamentally believe it's between Labour and Conservative in terms of who will actually be running the country. And so, the choice is, do you want...
They get the major share.
Yeah, do you want David Cameron, yes, or do you want Ed Miliband, potentially supported by Alex Salmond, who, frankly, all that he wants is to break up the United Kingdom and get all he needs for Scotland. So, I just think that's a frightening possibility of Ed Miliband, Alex Salmond coalition. So what I'm fighting for is a good Conservative majority that we can run the country, because the problem is, the minute you go to a coalition, and yes, we've managed it within the last 5 years. Absolutely. But the difficulty is, you're not delivering exactly what you promised to the people. Because you basically have a Conservative manifesto, you have in that situation a Lib Dem manifesto, you then sort of combine it into a coalition agreement. But there's things you therefore have to miss off. You don't. So it's much more difficult than going to the country and saying, well, we promised this, but actually we delivered something different. So it's much easier as a Conservative government to say, this is what we promised in this election, and this is what we have.
So you're very hopeful it'll be a Conservative government again.
So I'm very hopeful, but that's what we're all fighting
for. But your pollsters are saying you're neck and neck with Labour.
But I think there's still a lot of undecided people.
They will make
and they will make up their mind in the last perhaps couple of weeks, or even when they go into the ballot box. And my message will always be is like, do you really want to risk what we've built up so far? This is an incredibly important election, one of the most important in a generation, and we've got to think about the future of our country.
So what's your message to our viewers then?
It is about this is, I think, the most important election in a generation. It is really important for ourselves, our local communities, for the country as a whole, because we are potentially putting the difficult decisions we've had to make and the difficult times in the last 5 years, we're putting that at risk if we change course. And what I fundamentally believe is that we've created a long-term economic plan that we've tried to deliver. We've made real improvements and changes and made a difference to people's lives in the country. There is more that still needs to be done, and therefore we'd love the privilege and the honour of, for me, being the next Member of Parliament for this area in West London, as well as getting a Conservative government back running the country.
Well, thank you very much, Mary, for a very interesting interview, and I do hope you win your seat again. And that's all for this edition of our programme, Your MP, Your Vote. So it's goodbye for now from me, Lucia Vias, and Mary, and we hope to meet you again for the next edition.